Turning now to a reignited war in Syria. CNN is learning Syrian and Russian jets are stepping up joint strikes on opposition forces in the northern part of the country. Syria's volunteer rescue group, the White Helmet, says airstrikes on Sunday have killed dozens of people. And this comes in retaliation for that sudden offensive that cost the Syrian regime control of the country's second largest city, Aleppo. Rebel forces also say they are expanding their control in the country, claiming that they have now made significant gains in the northern countryside of Aleppo, capturing several towns and villages. The rebel success poses the biggest challenge to Syrian President Bashar al-Assad in years. For its part, Moscow says it will continue to support him. CNN's Clarissa Ward joins us now live from Beirut. When we look at this, Clarissa, this came as a surprise for so many people. How was the opposition able to take so much ground and do it so quickly?
Well, Erica, as you said, this took people by complete surprise. Nobody was anticipating this. These are the largest territorial gains that we've seen for the rebels in 8 years. It had been largely quiet in Syria. There had been a sort of de facto no war, no peace. And that's because, in a sense, Bashar al-Assad was able to quash the opposition. He did that not through the strength of his own military or military rule, but through various very powerful backers, the Russians, the Iranians, Hezbollah. If you look at where we are now in this moment, Iran, very distracted by the losses on the battlefield of its various proxies, also facing strikes from Israel. Hezbollah, clearly battered by Israel. And Russia, very much distracted and preoccupied with the war in Ukraine. You can get a feel or a sense for why the rebels felt that now was perhaps the moment to try to strike while there is this vacuum of sorts, and while it is so unclear who would be able to step in and fill the void and give Bashar al-Assad the support that he would need to once again quash this rebellion. Though at this stage, as you said, the momentum does seem to be on the rebels' side. They have full control of Idlib province now. They have full control of the central city of Aleppo, or the central parts of Aleppo, making gains in Aleppo countryside, also at the doorstep of the central city of Hama. So it remains to be seen how exactly Assad's backers are going to save him once again, though, as you mentioned, we have seen those Russian airstrikes stepping up in the last couple of days, Erica.
You mentioned whether they'll be able to save him again. It has been key, right, to Bashar al-Assad's ability to stay in power, to have that support. How much of a threat does this pose to his power at this point?
I think it's a significant threat, although it's very difficult to see what happens next and what indeed the goals are of the rebels and their various backers. As I mentioned before, we are seeing an uptick now in those Russian strikes. And when we look back to 2015, which is when Russia entered the Syrian arena, and when they really doubled down with an incredibly cruel but very effective mass bombardment of civilian areas across rebel-held territory, it is clear that the Russians can make that decisive difference once again. The question that remains, though, is whether they have the appetite to do that in this moment, or whether they are trying to conserve their energy and their resources for the ongoing battle in Ukraine. I will say that after sort of a couple of days of incredibly fast momentum on behalf of the rebels, today it does feel like some of those gains are slowing down a bit. There had been many rumors about the possibility of certain factions of the Syrian army potentially defecting. We haven't yet been able to get a clear sense of whether that really is happening and what the impact of it would be if so. At this stage, not clear yet whether Bashar al-Assad can survive this, although I will say, having covered Syria for many years, Erica, that there have been a number of occasions in the past where people assumed that he could not survive, and he went on to prove them wrong, Erica.
Yeah, it is an excellent point. Really appreciate your insight, your expertise on this as well, Clarissa. Thank you.
The Syrian military is intensifying its attacks against rebel groups. Its retaliation after a rebel coalition captured Syria's second largest city. Video shows chaos in Aleppo as people scramble in the moments just before an explosion. Just a warning, the video you're about to watch is graphic. Unbelievable. New pictures also appear to show rebel fighters with tanks that were abandoned by Syrian forces. Retired General Wesley Clark joins us now. He's the former NATO Supreme Allied Commander. General Clark, what are your thoughts on what looks like just a tinderbox in Syria right now? What's next, do you think?
So I think we're going to see a continued back and forth struggle between the Turkish-backed forces and the Syrian forces. I think Russia will weigh in increasingly. Russia can't afford to lose Bashar Assad as an ally. It can't afford to lose its footprint in the region. And Russia is going to commit additional resources there. Turkey wants to end this with a little more terrain in northwest Syria and greater credibility. So I think this is going to go on for a while.
I mean, the Russians are already stretched pretty thin in Ukraine. What are your thoughts on whether Bashar al-Assad is in danger of losing some power here if this continues in this direction?
Bashar can't afford to lose Aleppo. It's the economic, cultural center of Syria. So he's going to throw whatever he's got into this fight. He doesn't have Hezbollah as an ally. Iran is weakened. Russia is under pressure. But I think you're going to see a long, tough fight around Aleppo. So it's not clear that Bashar is going to give up on it. He's not going to fall back. He's not going to peacefully go into the night. This is going to be a really intense, painful struggle.
And General Clark, as you know, U.S. troops are in the region. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan addressed this issue. Here's what he had to say.
At the moment, we believe that our forces who are stationed in Syria to fight ISIS are not at proximate risk because they are in a different part of the country from where this particular offensive is taking place. But they are under a different kind of threat. They are still under a threat from Iran and the Shia-backed militia groups in Iraq and Syria.
Yeah, General, how much danger is there for U.S. troops in that region right now?
I don't think there's a great danger right now, but I do think that that what's going to happen is this fighting will spread, and U.S. allies, the YPG, the friendly Kurds who have been working with the United States, are definitely a target of Turkey. And so if Turkey's successful and its forces are successful, they're going to turn on the YPG, and this will involve U.S. interests. So there's risk there. And Jim, remember at the same time what we're not covering, but what's actually happening in the former Soviet Republic of Georgia. 30 some odd years, 35 years, an independent country, now turning away from the West under a new political party, and lots of protests in the street. And I can assure you this really has Russia's attention.
Yeah, that's another unstable situation. You're absolutely right. We'll continue to follow that as well. General Clark, thanks for bringing that up. Appreciate the time. Thank you.